Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. Happy Wednesday to you. Obviously, we're taking a look at Bitcoin, seeing what's going on here, and helping understand best practice big picture. It does look like it wants to break a descending type of trend, and we may be fairly in the clear. We're going to look at a handful of things to make sure that is the case, but I feel like a long position should be viable. All right, we're going to take a look at that and much more. If you're new to the channel, though, not a financial advisor, I love teaching people to trade. Hope you can learn something here today. I love teaching people how to become better traders, more self-sufficient, financially. So if that's something you want for yourself, CryptoCache.tech is a site. Link in the description below. Feel free to check that out and consider becoming a community member where I teach you how to trade. I've got a trading academy, community, and signal group. So check that out again. Link in the description below. So here we are with Bitcoin. Obviously a green day to start. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take off. We want to look at confirmation and see if we have that. But there are a lot of factors from what I could tell earlier when I took a peek at this that we were waiting on to effectively give us that green light, so to speak. So it's definitely looking good here. I'll explain more in a moment. But let's take a look at the standard stuff. Again, we're not going to worry about the monthly or the weekly for the moment because the narrative there is that the price action is above key level supports and we're in good shape there with the moving averages and we're effectively increasing overall. We're making higher lows on the smaller time frames and the larger time frames. It's just looking pretty good here overall for Bitcoin. Again, I wouldn't expect a massive surge, but I do think 28,000 is more likely right now than it would be 14,000, right? We're kind of right in that middle zone, but for the most part, I do think an increase would make more sense. All right, anyways, enough about that. What we're looking at here is the RSI. Standard stuff, not much to say, but it didn't come all the way down to 50 and test that. Instead, it kind of bounced off like 53, 54. That's not super relevant, but what is important to recognize that we're still above the moving average, and that's a key thing to help us know that we're on the right side of the tracks, and we didn't drop below that. Okay, we're also making higher lows on the RSI as well, concurrent with the price action. That's a very good sign. Other than that, not much else here too. I mean, you could argue that there is a MACD divergence on the horizon, but it truly never wants to fully form. When it comes down, it kind of gets a nice little bounce. That's where these higher lows are coming into play. With higher lows, we're having nicer continuation patterns, okay? So again, looking pretty good here in that sense. And we could even, if you were to kind of look at just say this trend line here, essentially, you could even move it up and look that we're getting much closer to that level, and that right about 22,500 is a likely bottom if it were to come down that low. It did try and test that. It's tested the 20-day sub-moving average here at about 22,700. It tested that twice so far, and it's effectively a double bottom on a smaller time frame, and it does look like it wants to continue to progress upwards from here. Retesting that resistance here at about 23,400 multiple times over. The more often you test a resistance or support, the more likely it is to break. It does look like it wants to break to the upside here, right around 22.4. Okay, so we'll look at the 4-hour and the hourly, of course, to identify. But generally speaking here, if we look at this price action, we can see obviously a healthy continuation here. That's likely based on the traditional markets being up as well. They didn't necessarily gap up, but they certainly opened strong. And then obviously, dollar index, even though it did come up, it's kind of drawing dead for the moment, so I do feel like Bitcoin should continue to progress higher. Again, handful of reasons for that, but for the most part, I like this pattern here where the price action keeps retesting this level and getting rejected, because the more likely you are to test that, the more likely it is to break, and it does feel like 22,400 will effectively, 23,400, 23.4 will effectively become broken here in the near future, and we should see somewhere as close as 24,000 or higher from there. I think that is a strong likelihood to see that in this next push. There's also, you could argue this is an ugly cup and handle. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but generally speaking, when you come up to certain levels and you reject out and then you retest those levels, the likelihood of it breaking is fairly high considering the overall continuation here. Again, we have higher lows, things are looking pretty good on the daily, and that's a positive there. We also want to look at the RSI here too, and we can see on the basically 50 on the RSI has been broken, and that should work as a support level now too. So that also is something I like to look for in confirmation, helping us understand we're on the right side of the tracks. Furthermore, we have a MACD convergence here effectively coming to a head right now. So as soon as that MACD is converging, it's usually a sign to want to try to get in because the momentum is shifting from bearish to bullish. And if you can kind of see here previously, when the 12 intersects with the 26, we can obviously indicate that the price action has changed in direction. And if we look at that time frame there, the last time it did this, the price action shot up a decent percent. Not saying we're going to see a 15% increase, because that's what happened last time we had a convergence in the MACD. But I am saying that we should see a likely retest at 24, possibly 25,000, or 24 breaking that 24.7 resistance area. Okay. Another thing too, also to note, as well as a positive, you can see this descending trend has effectively become broken, and we're pushing to the upside where the 20-day SIP moving average was working its way down as a resistance. No longer the case. Likely support level here, as well as the 50-day SMA. You could even argue that we got a golden cross coming up here with the 50 and the 20, but again, I prefer to use that on the 50 and the 200. Regardless of that fact, if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. It's just an added little bonus here, kind of giving us a slightly more confirmation, letting us know that we're on the right side of tracks. So a lot of good stuff here from Bitcoin. It's definitely looking like it wants to break. Furthermore, too, on the hourly, we also want to take a look at the cloud. I'm sure we're just barely breaching the top of the cloud, if I recall correctly, which we are. So this is the one thing that obviously, I would say, if you're an ultra patient person and you want to make sure that you have full on confirmation, which I typically recommend, because if you look yesterday with a price action, I think it was the day before, I'd mentioned that hey, we haven't broken above the cloud yet, try not to take entry, it continued to go lower, we filled our short positions, right? But on the inverse, of course, if you look at it here, even though we are not above the cloud and we haven't broken through that yet, because it's obviously a key level resistance, we'll naturally be above the cloud if the price action goes sideways for another 5 to 7 hours. And then furthermore, we could see a break above the cloud, of course, likely in the near future, because once again, this level's been tested multiple times. I mean, you can see it. How many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's not even, if you, each one of them are twice as well. So, we're talking somewhere in the range of 5 to 10 retests of 23,400, a key Fibonacci retracement level that is getting tested over and over and over again. Okay. Coincidentally, it's an upper lead on the Ichimoku cloud right now, so this is the only thing kind of preventing us from having a full-on, 100% confirmation that this is a go signal, right? But I would venture to guess that we're looking pretty darn good here, and the likelihood of breaking 23,400 is quite high, just based on the way that it's kind of shaping up itself, right? Again, 4-hour MACD convergence, we got the moving averages helping us out. There's a lot of positive factors there. Last thing we're going to take a look at here, and this explains why it did turn around, of course. We came up to an 8, effectively hit a 9 up here, and then reset. So it makes sense that the price needs to consolidate before it breaks out to the upside, due to the fact that it was overextended leading into this push to try to break that key level resistance. So I really just think it's a matter of time before we see 24,000 again, and likely potentially retest of 24,700 to break that most recent high to get us where we need to go. So again, a lot of good stuff here from Bitcoin. I see nothing that's really adverse or negative, except for the fact that we just haven't officially broken through the cloud yet. But with us retesting that upper lead a few times, that leads me to believe, especially breaking this descending type of trend, this immediate descending trend, we're going to be in pretty good shape to see a continuation of the upside. I think a long position would be pretty safe at this point. That goes for a decent amount of altcoins as well. We do have a position open also for a few other alts, so make sure to check that out. Of course, if you're a community member, I sent out some signals this morning. But for the most part here, I would say green light here for Bitcoin in that regard. Okay. So hopefully this made sense and I described this correctly. If so, comment below, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I do appreciate everyone, of course, for just being amazing parts of my life. That goes for my subscribers, my community members, pretty much everyone that interacts with me on a daily basis, or bi-daily, whatever the case is, however infrequent. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of that. I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care. Thank you.